Hi, hello, and welcome to another episode of The Dunker Spot. We are part of the Yahoo Sports Network. I am your host, Nekias, Duncan, and joining me as always is my co-host, the always excellent Steve Jones Jr. Steve, how are you doing, sir?
Feeling good, feeling great. Happy to be here, excited to be here. Thank you, Dunkers, for once again embracing your bounce. A lot of hoops to talk about. Ready to do it with you, buddy.
Let's have some fun, Steve. Before we get into the actual meat and potatoes of the show, I wanted to give you a salute. Wanted to say congratulations. As announced on the last pod, we were going to take our role player draft to a poll. Nearly 300 people chimed in. Steve getting 51.5% of the vote. So you win there. And then we had a 2K sim last night. We set up these teams. And it was looking good for Team Nekias for most of that game, Steve. It was up double digits for a large portion of that game. And then Alex Caruso said, absolutely not. What if I steal every pass that you throw? And JD McDaniels is like, hey, what if I just knock down a bunch of off-the-dribble jumpers now? And Marcus Smart's going to sprinkle in a corner 3-2. And we're going to steal even more of your passes. And the second half just turned into a box of nightmares for Team Nekias. And Team Steve comes out on top in the 2K sim, 70-63. So double congratulations to you. The All Clamps team got it done. And so I want to give you a quick salute
That's all they,
before we got into
That's all they did. That's all they did. All they did was play defense. And that's all they did. They played defense and did dribble handoffs, and it worked. You want to know why it worked? Atlanta Hawks didn't score for 5 minutes in the second half. Defense always prospers. Never stop believing in defense.
I was so mad. So 2 quick things that we can officially move forward. One, trying to set up the rotations to make sure that our starting fives played the entire 48 minutes. Fatigue all fouls out, which there weren't many fouls in that game to begin with, funny enough, with all the defense on the floor. I was like, that should have been an easy process. But the gosh darn Brooklyn Nets were, former stomping ground for Steve. This is the team that he wanted for his guys. They just kept trying to sub in folks. And so I had to enter the game like 6 separate times to get Steve's 5 back out there. It is like a mix of timeouts and intentional fouls to make sure the subs didn't play to ruin the result of the game. That was a fun time. Second thing for Team Nekias, the amount of possessions that ended with Sam Merrill getting the ball with 6 seconds on the shot clock, just being tasked with isolating against Marcus Smart. And I just kept waiting one time for someone to go screen for Sam Merrill. Like, let him run a pick and roll so he can maybe get a jumper off. It's like, no, actually, you are just going to create against Marcus Smart. He did hit a nice little 3 over Marcus Smart in the second quarter. I was like, okay, well, got it once. It just kept happening. So there you go. You won the vote. You won the game. Team Steve, champions on the pod and in our collective heart. So there's the salute. And while we're talking about defense, Steve, I wanted to have a defense conversation on the podcast today. I've been chomping at the bit to talk about like DPOY and all defense and the candidates and things for a little bit now. But as we had a conversation over the weekend and just kind of prepping for the show, I wanted this to less be about who do we think is going to win DPOY, who do we think is going to be on the all defense teams. We're going to sprinkle that in throughout the conversation. But I was more interested in asking you and ultimately talking through how we approach these awards, the kinds of things that we're looking for, the kinds of players that we're looking for, potential blind spots to avoid as, the collective basketball fandom has gotten more access to numbers. Like, what do you consider? What do you throw out? What needs 3 sprinkles of salt of context? What needs 47 sprinkles of salt of context? I just want to get into that because I think that is where, one, we're at our best when we're talking through things in that way and having an earnest conversation about things. But also, defense remains the hardest end of the floor, I think, collectively for people to evaluate. So I think talking through those kind of things, that's what I wanted to do today. And so the question that I had for you, Steve, is we have this games played minimum that we have to account for. But beyond that, when you're looking at DPOY, when you're looking at all defense, what matters to you, Steve? What are you looking for, like 10,000-foot view, when you're talking about these awards?
I mean, if we're talking defensive player of the year, for me, how good is your team defensively? Is that impacting winning? Is defense a big portion of why your team has had success? And what is your chunk of that defensive machine, right? Like, so how much responsibility do you have? How many tasks are you asked to do? Could this defense operate without you? Can it be functional? Do you elevate it when you're in the game? Like, I think that's an important thing to have a distinction with. But I also think there is a volume to Defensive Player of the Year where, okay, blocks, steals, activity, people don't want to go in the paint against you. People are having a tough time dribbling against you. Like, I think there are things you can visually see every single night where it's like, okay, you are doing this you are consistently being a nuisance on the defensive end. So I think it's a blend of that. Like, I think it's hard for me if you're on a team that's struggling to give you Defensive Player of the Year recognition because I see you. I might consider you for all defense, but how much of what you're doing matters to what this is, which isn't necessarily totally fair, but also just being honest. Like, you can do all this defensive stuff, but is it just you? Is anyone else joining you on board? Like, how does that work? What's important to you when it comes to Defensive Player of the Year?
Like, I think you've nailed a lot of it, but like within that is where my brain starts to go, not necessarily haywire, but like it's a lot of different pathways for me. And so, like, I agree with you just on a general note, like, how good is this defense? What is your role in this defense? What kind of responsibility do you have? But within that, is your responsibility more on ball or off ball? Like, how dependent is your role on the people around you doing their jobs for it to pop to a certain extent, right? And I think that's where we can use Bam as an example, right? Even beyond this year, just in general. I think the big calling card for Bam is because he is so nimble on the perimeter and because he's also so strong, like, you can switch Bam 1 through 5 and not really think too much about it. You feel pretty good about what he's going to do defensively because he can handle these assignments. What some of the best teams in the league have done against Miami over the past few years, especially in the seasons where Miami switches a bunch, is, hey, Bam's going to switch. How about we involve him early? We're going to move him over there, and then we're going to attack. And we're going to have a little bit of fun because we don't have to worry about that guy. So it's like trying to gauge. I give Bam credit for being good enough to where this works. And like overall, the Heat still remain a top 10 defense. But it's also like, how, to your volume point, how much is Bam doing when teams are moving him out of the way? Like, it's a sign of respect that they're moving him out of the way, but then you are judging the respect that Bam deserves for being moved out of the way with someone that is actually defending the ball and doing something. And again, that's a very reductive view, but that's one of the pathways that I go down when trying to consider how do we weigh, on ball impact versus off ball impact? How do we relay the volume of on ball stuff to the fear factor that Bam has on switches, that Victor Wembanyama has at the rim? Like, you can't literally measure this is a shot that was not taken. Like, you can get close to that with like opponent rim rate is this when he's on the floor, opponent rim rate is that when he's not. But like, you can't literally track, oh well, or there isn't a site for it. You can't hand track. There's a drive that petered out that Wemby was there. They were like, nah, we ain't doing that. And so like that's where I'm just like, ooh, okay, how do we consider that portion of the program?
I mean, I think for me, you got to think about it overall in the sense that every team is a little bit different with what they want to do defensively. And
Mm-hmm.
you kind of mentioned it as far as, okay, who do we give credit to as far as what they do? So if you're a big and you're a drop big and you're protecting the paint, you are going to need your guards to do their job as far as navigating screens. So what you do
Mm-hmm.
becomes more impactful. If you're a guard and you're active and you have a presence and you are harassing and pressuring the ball, you are going to need an element of help defense to really elevate what you do. And I think it comes to Bam, it's an interesting thought because he holds so much responsibility in that Miami Heat defense in the
Mm-hmm.
sense that he has to do so much that people may not always see. And I think the one thing with defense is a lot of it is doing your job, which may not pop on the screen all the time. Like well-timed rotations, help defense, having nuance in your coverages. These are things that you may not necessarily see or process or value in the moment because, okay, I did what I'm supposed to do, so I'm not in the outcome of this play, right? I saw it was a pick and roll, it was a slip. I showed to take the ball handle away. I got back out. That's what I did. Now something else
Mm-hmm.
happened this possession. So we're not valuing necessarily what I did because there wasn't a turnover, a shot wasn't taken. I did my job.
Yeah.
I helped him recover. I switched and doubled. Like, it gets hard necessarily if there's not necessarily a tangible outcome tied to a specific player.
Mhm. And that's where, like, the easy answer is, hey, like, you have to watch the film to see what's happening. And I think we are both very much practitioners of, let's see what the scheme is, what your responsibility is within that, and you can see, like you mentioned, the Bam rotation point. You look at someone like Dyson Daniels this year, who has still had plenty of on-ball responsibility, but Nickeil Alexander-Walker has taken on some of that compared to last year, where Dyson just kind of had to guard a little bit of everyone. Nickeil can take on some of those on-ball assignments, so you see the Dyson Daniels bit off the ball. You still see the steal numbers when he is pick sixing folks and jumping things, but there are also the quieter possessions in Atlanta where, because Dyson is at the nail, this drive that may have been 3 dribbles and a genuine paint touch is now a dribble, a pickup, and a kick out. And we're forcing you deeper into the clock. Like, Dyson's not going to get the same credit for the nail help that forces the pickup and forces the pass and forces a deeper possession, compared to Dyson's at the nail. He plucked somebody when they were trying to drive, and now it's a pick six the other way. Like, you can obviously argue the steal is literally more valuable. You're ending the possession, getting 2 points. But the nail help is also an example of good defense. And so, actually, circling back to the front court for a minute, because we started with Bam. Go ahead.
No, before we go to the front court, Dyson Daniels is an interesting concept after the year he had last year, right? Lights out defensively, jumped onto the stage, onto the page. We all kind of saw what he did. How do we judge him this year for a team who, and I mean no offense by this Atlanta, y'all have been rocking. Y'all are moving in places I didn't expect. Shout out to CJ McCollum. Y'all are cooking. That isn't really good at defense. And that doesn't mean he's not doing good things defensively, but that's not their hallmark. So does he lose consideration this year because the team has changed? Or does he land in a space where, well, he's still doing his thing defensively? Like, what's the impact for you with Dyson Daniels? Like, those type of players where it's like, boy, this team, like, I know what you can do defensively. This team is not doing that defensively. How do I judge this player?
I think I'm glad we're sticking with Dyson for a minute. And I think this also circles back to, like, the broader Atlanta Hawks winning streak, which recently ended, but just in general, what they've been since February, in a sense. Because, like, on one hand, Dyson is still very good on the ball. He's still very good off the ball. And I think you're seeing more of the off ball impact because, again, he's not 100% of the time defending the best perimeter player. Sometimes that is just Nickeil Alexander Walker, with Dyson taking number 2s or sometimes number 3s so you can roam off ball. And again, you see the impact there. There's also this measure of, to your Hawks defense point, I don't think the defense is a hallmark for them, but because of what they've done in this calendar year, and you can filter for February and you can filter for that long win streak, Perkley in the glass, they're now up to 11th in defense. And it's very funny that Dyson finished second in Defensive Player of the Year last year, where the Hawks were more in the middle of the pack. Their defense is better than it was last year. They have better personnel around him. And Dyson, his role has shifted, but he's still also very good. And so, like, I do, to your point, kind of wonder how voters are going to cycle through, like, how much of the defense being better than last year is because of Dyson versus some of the other guys that are coming in. And even within that, because Dyson has been better in a different role, or you could argue he's been better in a different role, is he getting credit for the versatility from year to year? Which is kind of a weird thing when you consider, like, all defense is supposed to be for what's happened this year, less than, like, what happened in years prior, et cetera. So, like, how are voters going to weigh that part in? Dyson really is a fascinating case to me.
Okay. Interesting.
Okay.
Now, let's talk about your front court, because your precious front court features a lot of impactful defenders that you like to talk about specifically. And I'm certain, because we recorded this in the morning, we'll pull the curtain back. I'm certain you have thought very much so about which bigs you want to talk about and how impactful they are. So I'm all ears.
I will say, like, I certainly have some names that I think are going to be very loudly featured in the DPOY conversation and more broadly in the all defense conversation. But even with that, like, I more so want the question to you, as the league has changed so much over the last 5 years, over the last 10 years, over the last 15 years, which, right, Steve, you know how wild it is that, like, me saying 15 years ago just means the 2010, 2011 season now? Like, I remember when 15 years ago meant late 90s, early 2000s. And now we're just like here. Time flies very quickly. But anyway,
You're talking
the
to the
question
wrong
I want
person. I've worked in the
yeah.
NBA in 10 years, and that number keeps growing.
Well, that's not what I wanted to do. My apologies. Oh, but no, circling back, the question I want to pose to you is as the league has shifted and like what quote unquote matters for defense, I feel has shifted at least a little bit because stylistically the league is in a different place. Like, how do you gauge your elite rim protectors like your Victor Wembanyama's, your Rudy Gobert's, your Chet Holmgrens with the more versatile front court pieces, your Bam Adebayo that can switch a little bit everywhere, your Scotty Barnes that can switch a little bit everywhere. Like, how do you kind of balance which one is bringing more value?
Well, I mean, it's one of those deals where you have to look at the total impact, right? So when it comes to like a Victor Wembanyama, what he does with blocks is loud. You know he's very tall, so teams are not going to want to go in the paint against him. So there is a volume with Victor Wembanyama that you can take a friend that hasn't watched the NBA and point to that guy and let's say he's good at defense, and eventually they'll see it because he's going to do something, right? The tricky
Mhm,
part is on top of those volume type plays, he also has a command and control of that defense as far as his
mhm,
communication, his timing when it comes to helping, his ability to understand and communicate to his players, hey, you guys need to rotate here. I'm going to stay on the block. Hit this rotation. I'm going to come here. Let's switch out. I'm on the wing. You try and put me on the wing, pick and roll. I take the roller. Let's rotate around me. And so that does require the Spurs to be locked in. But because of who he is talent wise, his communication, it's a lot easier for them to just do absurd things. I remember the Spurs played the Rockets, and Stephon Castle was guarding Amen Thompson in the Dunker spot. And he had some of the wildest rotations I've ever seen as far as like what you're not supposed to do guarding someone from the Dunker spot. Like he's just stepping up, like, whatever, man. I'm gonna show help. And he did that because Wemby exists. He was on the court. So yeah, I can be a little audacious with this. That is Wemby's impact to a degree, right? Chet Holmgren has some of the same rim protection value, right? They want to keep him low. He's able to be impactful. He's able to have an ability to deter you at the rim. Like he has value defensively. How do we measure how important Chet is to what OKC does versus OKC having so many defensive demons on that team
mhm.
to where, okay, are you guys just doing a handshake agreement? Because yeah, my job's a lot easier to rotate when I have everyone who can pressure the ball existing and we fly around and I'm active. That doesn't take away what Chet's done, but it does exist, right?
Mhm.
Rudy Gobert, for whatever reason, is always going to be in this conversation. And the reason is because he's good at defense. But how do we value his impact? Is his impact just statistics? Or is it recognizing that he has an understanding of how to time help, how to communicate where he is, and how to
Mhm,
deter players coming in the paint? What's the balance there? Are we doing both?
mhm,
Scotty Barnes has an ability to do so many things for Toronto defensively and defend so many players. And I think that's part of what they built up for him. You know, I used to yell at me about, hey, why is Scotty Barnes guarding this player? Because they need him to be able to defend every single player that he can. So I could switch. I
mhm,
can guard guards. I can guard forwards. I can guard bigs. I can do whatever you need. How much does that interfere with a Bam Adebayo case? How do we gauge pick a Thompson twin? Because they are disruptive.
mhm,
How much credit do we give a Case and Wallace within what OKC does? Because he's an important reason why it works. But how much do we say this is because Case and Wallace is cooking? Like there's a lot of intricacies when it comes to defensive player of the year, all defense, where you're recognizing the effort, you're recognizing the impact, but it's not easy to kind of separate sometimes
mhm.
because you can have all the activity in the world. If you don't have the rim protection, you don't have the pick and roll coverage. What you did was great, but we had a breakdown.
Mhm.
So how do we value that?
Yeah. Can I actually I want to hang there for a bit. Can I ask you a question? So like with the understanding that, especially if you're talking, we'll say drop pick and roll. Guy has to navigate big, hanging back, protect the rim, et cetera, et cetera. So with the understanding that both are very important, rim protectors get dinged if the screen navigation is bad. Screen navigators get dinged if the rim protection is bad. For you, who do you lean more towards? Maybe crediting isn't the right word, but like who are you generally more impressed by in these kind of two-player sequences? Do you lean more towards, man, that guard really did a good job of pressuring and navigating, et cetera, or is it more, man, that big did a really good job with his timing and his drop, et cetera? Like what kind of catches your eye first? Not necessarily which is better
You're not gonna
per se.
you're not gonna like my answer because it's both. It's just both
Oh,
because there's a rhythm to it. There's a dance to playing that kind of coverage defensively, and I'm talking about like not the sorry Roy Hibbert, but not the Roy Hibbert deep drop that is literally just on the guard to figure it out, right? So it depends. If you're just drop back and we're giving you the space, yeah, I'm going to be really impressed by the guard being able to navigate that, get back in front. If this is a situation where you're a big and you're coming to the level of the screen and okay, I'm going to show you that I'm up here, make you think that I'm going to trap and I drop back or I kind of give space at the last second. I'm impressed by the nuance that you showed because you've now put your guard in a position to be able to recover. You've also thrown a curveball at the ball handler. So it depends on the play, right? It depends on who you're guarding. It depends on what you're trying to do. It depends on what you're trying to accomplish. I think if you're a big and you have nuance and you have control, you have communication, you're always going to stand out. If you're a guard and you're able to kind of pressure the ball and navigate and get back in front and recover and have it like understanding, like, hey, all right, you're this high on the screen. I'm going to go under. Okay, there's a rescreen. I'm going to fight back over. I'm going to get back on top. Yeah, that's great effort. And now because you did that, your big didn't have to do much, right? But let's say you go under, you get clipped on the rescreen. If you're the big, you see that, are you in the right position? So it's a dance when it comes to defense, as far as you both need each other and you both need to be able to kind of communicate those type of deals.
yeah, that's fair. I think I want to answer my own question. Like the screen essentially just putting on a game or whatever. Like the screen navigation is always going to pop for me first. And like part of that is like literally this is going to be the first part of this phase of the action. And so like I need to see like, are you ready to navigate when the screen comes? Are you navigating it well? Are you staying attached? If you do get clipped, what's your effort like, et cetera, et cetera. So like the screen navigation always hits me first, which is then funny because then when I was doing, making my extremely long list of people that I'm considering for all defense or DPOY, et cetera, once you start factoring in some of like the impact metrics and stuff like that, it is still generally like big/forward heavy because even with the league shifting, the rim still remains so important for defenses, like being able to limit shot attempts there first and foremost, but when they get there, limit the effectiveness there. The guys that do that are generally the ones that have like the better numbers, or generally, even historically, just looking at the winners of DPOY, we don't have many guards or wings that have won it. I do wonder
Because
when the tide is
because
going to turn.
we don't respect guard defense. You know how hard that is?
It's it is incredibly difficult, to your point. But like that's generally like where the number's always going to swing. Like the guys that have the biggest on-off swings defensively, if you're looking at Victor Wembanyama, if you want to hang there right there. Like you mentioned the blocks, but like the rim defense, as you pointed out, the communication, his ability to stay low, what that unlocks for the pressure up top, et cetera. But like teams just not being able to get to the rim often, and when they do, having to deal with that guy is the biggest reason why the Spurs have a top 5 defense right now. When Wemby's on the floor, it's even more insane. When Wemby goes to the bench, even though Luke Cornett is a solid positional defender, they just do not defend at the same level without Victor Wembanyama because of what he does and how he's able to impact the paint in particular. And I think to answer your earlier question about like how much credit do you give Chet based, versus all the perimeter guys that you have, I think it's kind of like a value/scarcity deal to where the Thunder have a lot of great defenders or elite defenders. Chet's kind of the only high level rim protector that they have. They have guys that can make plays at the rim, of course. But like in terms of I can wall this off, or I can send your shot to the third row, or I can make you think twice about getting there, which gives my guys on the perimeter an extra beat to get there, and they're good anyway. That is where the Chet values, that's where it rings the loudest for me in particular. And I think even when you look at some of the on-off data, and this comes up in the Shea MVP case, to where like the Thunder are historically good when Shea's on the floor. When he's off the floor, they're still very good. A lot of that is because The offense falls off a cliff to a degree, but the defense becomes even more important. And I think a lot of that, and even just looking at some of the on-off data for OKC, a lot of that is because Chet's on the floor when Shai is not there. And Chet's defense has been kind of insane this year. Now, like quickly pulling up the rim defense stuff was getting that as you brought the question because it sparked it for me. So I just filtered for players that have played at least 40 games, defending at least 4 shots per game at the rim. This is on NBA.com. 49 players on that list, Steve. Number 1 in field goal percentage allowed is, I'll take a favor of yours, Isaiah Stewart, 43.2% allowed at the rim when teams try to shoot against them, which is insane. Second on the list is Chet Holmgren at 48.7, under 50% on that list. Is Jared Allen at 51.1. He's third. Victor Wembanyama is fourth at 52.6. And even looking at the shot attempts defended, it's 5.6 for Chet, it's 5.7 for Wemby. So it's not like it's a major split that either one is like benefiting from or getting dinged from. Very similar volume, and it's a 4 percentage points difference between Chet and Wemby right now. And so like that's where I'm just like, yeah, Chet is playing with a great cast. And I do think that brings up an interesting question, like how do you circling back to your general question, I would say, how do you pick out the guy among a lot of youths? And I think for Chet, it is like, I am providing a skill set within this that is unique to everyone else, despite how great they are. And that you do also have like individual numbers, but also some on-off data to kind of make the case louder if you need to, aside from I'm watching this game and Chet just swatted something. You know what I mean? Which I wanted to ask you, Steve, as like I am generally the person on the pod that is bringing like the pick and roll tracking data to the conversation, or EPM, or all off stuff, whatever.
Don't ask me what numbers are useful. I use these.
Use it. Okay, right. So there's not one that you're just like, okay.
Because here's the thing. I would much rather use my brain and my eyes than fall into a data dump in that degree, because there are so many defensive metrics that people have come up with. I can't do that. I got to look at what you did. I got to feel the impact. I'm watching the games, so I got to see what you've done. The question for you, since you love the data, is what do you do with all these numbers that you have to process? I don't want that in my life. I want you to enjoy the game of basketball, and I want to be able to build a list and then separate based on what my brain is telling me based on what I know about the game. And that's no disrespect to numbers at all. It's just that there's too many numbers for Elmo right now. So what do you use at this time?
I think to your point, Steve, like this is why when it does come to the numbers portion, the first thing that I will say, and it's something that I have said to you before, something I've said on this podcast many times, on the timeline, etc. I want a healthy dose of both. I think getting any sort of number without understanding what that number is, what it values, and not having the film context to fully make that matter, you're doing yourself a disservice and you're making your case a disservice. Like, as much as I enjoy EPM, and I'll cite that sometimes on this podcast, it is never, Shai has the best EPMs and that is why he is my MVP. When we have these conversations, here are 8 things that I enjoy about Shai. Here's some numbers. And then I always add the caveat, if you care about this, he also leads in XYZ. Let me see what this list is. What pops for me? Let me do more research on this. Okay, if this guy who I think is having a good defensive season is like in the top 5 of this, which is just higher than where I have him, okay, let me go back and watch a little closer and see if there's something that I'm missing with this. Like, you should not take stuff like that as gospel, as useful as the numbers are. And I think for numbers in particular for me, I am much more on the tracking data side. Okay, I want to watch these pick and roll possessions. I want to watch these drive possessions. I want to watch these handoffs. Just to give an example. Like, I want those numbers. I want the film attached to those numbers versus EPM or APM or any of the advanced numbers. Not that any of them are bad, per se. But for me and my comfort, like, I want to stay within things that I can easily verify with the film. You know what I mean? And I think that brings us to like a conversation we had over the weekend. We were talking with Jaden McDaniels. And I think, funny enough, I think the conversation started with like a Nekias cage out for like all defense, in which I was like, he's having a good defensive year, kind of rich for my blood, et cetera. But like, okay, cool. We ended up on Jaden McDaniels. And we were talking about his responsibility to Minnesota's defense, what to do, et cetera. And as we were talking about this, I was like, oh, wait, actually, let me look at some of these numbers. I just haven't checked them for Jaden McDaniels in a while. And like looking at where he ranks among high volume pick and roll defenders, he was like more so middle of the pack. Looking at some of the drive defense, that was like a little bit below the league average and stuff like that. And then we got into this conversation about, okay, what about the context of what he's being asked to do? And I think we had a solid back and forth about that, which leads to some of the Jaden McDaniels stats, to your point, Steve, if we're talking about his case in particular, but just with perimeter guys in general and them deserving more respect. Jaden McDaniels, one of 9 players to log at least 1,000 backcourt pickups this year, which means ball is inbound that Jaden McDaniels is there. It's not just waiting for the guy to cross half court and then getting into the body. Jaden McDaniels, one of 9 guys there. He has defended more off-ball screens than anyone in the NBA heading into Tuesday night's action. The average pick and roll distance, just how far it is from the basket, league-wide is about 26 feet. For Jaden McDaniels, the average pick and roll that he defends is being set 28 feet from the basket. That is the 3rd highest among high-volume defenders. He has to cover so much more ground. And so, like, the question that you generally pose to me, and I think is instructive for people votes and things like that, to where you watch Jaden McDaniels and you know he's good at defense. The screen navigation hasn't been perfect for him, but he is generally defending the best perimeter offensive player on the other team. And he's also having to do it higher on the floor than just about anyone. And that's even with having like Rudy Gobert behind him. But like, how do you kind of balance this is a really tough job versus, okay, he does still grade out in the middle of the pack here. And even within that, it's less about that in the vacuum. It's more like, how do we factor that in with Jaden McDaniels compared to other elite defenders that also have tough assignments? And I think that's where the conversation should get fun at the very least. But like it's a he's a fascinating case study on that.
I think Jay McDaniels falls into a very interesting bucket as far as having a combination of responsibility within that Timberwolves defense. Like he has to take a lot of matchups. He's responsible for a lot of defensive ball pressure. He's responsible for their versatility. Chris Finch trusted this man and put him in a zone and put him in the middle with 2 other bigs on the court. He's a big core piece of the Minnesota Timberwolves defense. Rudy Gobert exists, so does that split his credit? And then you have okay, what happens when Jaden McDaniels himself has a breakdown defensively? What do we do with those? Do we grade him harsher because, okay, what are you doing? But are we not valuing, okay, I'm pressuring the ball. I have a unique skill set where I might get cooked on this under, but you're going to watch these plays where it looks like I'm done. I recover, throw my hands up in the air and contest. That's a special talent. So it's one of those deals where I feel like he can be muted as far as people understanding how important he is, but he can also be judged harshly because of how important he is to the defense. And so he kind of goes hand in hand where it's like, hey, look at Rudy Gobert. He's really anchoring that defense. Like, boy, it wouldn't work without Jaden McDaniels over the last couple of games. And it's like, what is Jaden McDaniels doing? Because you're expecting him to do so many things defensively. That's the tough part for some of these wings, some of these guards, to where you can kind of see when they are having a breakdown, or you can see when they have made a mistake, right? It's easy to look and be like, what is he doing? Like, why is he going under the screen? Why is he fouling? Why is he being too physical? Are you evaluating and understanding how much responsibility he has to be that guy for this team every single night? Because who else is going to do that? He has set the tone on the perimeter. So those kind of players get really interesting when it comes to that.
Yeah, like it's a fascinating case altogether. Again, this is why I wanted to have this conversation with you, Steve. Like, I think there are so many layers to evaluating defense. This is, again, less about like these are our top, et cetera. It's just like, okay, how do we value these types of guys? What are we looking for? Those kind of things. So thank you for indulging me, Steve. Want to chop it up with you on that front. So we're going to take a quick break from here. And when we return, we're going to take a little check-in on Jayson Tatum. And we are back with this episode of the Dunker Spot. And before we dig into Jayson Tatum conversation, just a quick heads up. Steve and I are going to be going live on this here YouTube channel following the end of Thunder Celtics on Wednesday. So 7:30 Eastern tip. So sometime after 10 Eastern, like, if we get a triple overtime thriller, then I guess we'll see what happens on that front. But sometime after 10 Eastern, Steve and I will go live reacting to what we saw in Thunder Celtics. So tap in with us. We're going to have some fun, quick reaction. Going to dig into what we saw. Now, with a premier Boston Celtics matchup coming up, this felt like an opportune time to check back in on Jayson Tatum because a couple weeks ago, Tatum makes his return. We talk about his first 2 games and what we saw, what we liked, some things we're going to be keeping an eye on. He has played 6 games since then. So, just as a quick refresher, in his first 2 games, Jayson Tatum, 17.5 points, 7.5 rebounds, 4.5 assists across those 2 games. Over his last 6 games, a shade under 20 points per game, 9 rebounds, 3 assists, and a steal. Has not recorded a block yet since he has returned. So we're keeping an eye on that portion of the program. But even to the efficiency bit for Jayson Tatum, 51% on twos, 29% from three on very high volume, 85 from the line. Free throw volume starting to pick up a little bit. So, Steve, just on a basic note, as we now have 8 total Tatum games right now, and 6 games since we last talked about him, has anything changed for you from what you've seen from Tatum? Do you feel better about some areas or some other things that you're kind of keeping a closer eye on? Like, how have you just kind of felt about the Tatum experience as of late heading into this Thunder matchup?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, when it comes to Jayson Tatum this season, the Boston Celtics have been a very good team on both ends of the floor. Jayson Tatum was not necessarily supposed to be here to a degree. If you like, it's a lot of effort for him to be playing basketball right now, and so that's kind of miraculous to a degree. And now he's coming to a well-oiled machine, which both helps and hurts him because it's going to open up the ability to have discords. Hey, they look a little bit different. Hey, he's not making shots. Hey, I don't know if we have to do that because here's the thing. The fact that Boston has played so well and has kind of an offensive style allows him to ease himself back in. And for the most part, he's just kind of been Jayson Tatum, but Jayson Tatum with rust, right? He's taken similar
Mhm.
amount of shots. He's not,
He's getting them up.
he's trying to drive. He's trying to drive. Like the drives are not far off from last year per game. Things are similar to what he did last year. I think that the overall piece is okay. Are we judging him for this? Because you tell him, you tell people he's shooting 38% from the field, 29 from three, people are going to make a face, right? That's going to happen. But what kind of shots is he taking? What type of shots are being created for him? And what is the overall thought for Boston with Jayson Tatum? Because they don't necessarily need him to unlock their offense as they may have had in the past. They have the luxury of Jayson Tatum being able to put pressure on teams. So being able to use him as a screener can create a 2-on-1 advantage and open things up in a way that Boston didn't necessarily have outside of a big, right? So we can get back into a little bit of the matchup hunting bag. We can keep him off ball. And so if he's one pass away from Jaylen Brown driving, that's a little bit different for the help defense than in pass for Boston. But he's not making the shots right now, so you don't necessarily feel the weight of that. So I think there's a lot of elements here because he's got a wave. Like Boston has a wave. Jaylen Brown's going to attack. Derik White's going to attack. Jayson Tatum's going to attack. And then I think for me, it's the mental aspect, the human aspect of it, right? For whatever it's worth, I'm sure Jayson Tatum wanted to come back and be Jayson Tatum, right? It's going to take time though. And so I think the most important thing is we've seen flashes of Jayson Tatum in almost every game. And so can he build on those flashes? Can he build a consistency around it? And so you've seen he's a rhythm player, right, Nekias? And so he's kind of got the handle, the ability to change speeds, the power. You've seen the nights where the drives pop and he's in control, he's in command, he's faking, he's got the footwork, we're good. You see the nights where he's got to rev up that turbo button. You can see he's trying to get downhill. And okay, do I have the confidence to be able to get my footwork back to finish at the rim? Am I
Mhm.
now getting bumped off contact when I try and rev up this turbo button? I have to remember how to finish through contact to a degree. If I'm posting up, oh, that's right, teams are double teaming me. I got to remember how to make these reads. And it's not like teams are just treating him like he's not Jayson Tatum. Hey, here's Jaden McDaniels pressuring you the entire time. So is he going to initiate? You know what I mean? Like, cool. I'm glad you're bringing the ball up. We're going to pressure you the whole time, and you're going to set the screen really high. Okay, under, pull up. See when he makes it. Do I have my footwork underneath me? Is it smooth? Am I getting where I want to go? Am I able to kind of? I think it's just him understanding and trying to learn the command of what he has to do, which is fair. Like he had a massive injury and has come back. And so I think for me, overall, he's just got to stack moments and understand, hey, your best is probably gonna look a little bit different every day. But those moments where you feel it, because we've seen those drives. There's like, hey, I'm splitting the defense, I'm finishing, this is me, I'm getting to the pull up. Embrace those and understand you could probably get to more of those. But I don't think this is an overall, oh, Jayson Tatum is wrecking the Celtics.
I actually want to stick with the drives first. We're going to broaden the scope on the Tatum front, but I want to stick with the drives because, like, that was the number one thing, and we talked about this ahead of his return. Like, it was lineup stuff for me, like how long is he going to play, who's going to play with, etc. But it's like, okay, what is the downhill stuff for Jayson Tatum going to look like? Because I think at the peak of his powers, like pre-injury, he was really figuring out, okay, this is how I generate power on these drives. I'm already going to be ripping through. I'm already going to be using my shoulders. I have the push off that people are annoyed by. But like, I know how to generate separation with my upper body, and I have a better handle on that. And now, because my base is stronger, I can now get to spots easier. And so it is Jayson Tatum pull up plus Jayson Tatum mid post stuff plus legitimate Jayson Tatum drives. And so, to your point, Steve, the fact that Tatum is now having to find himself within the Celtic system, again, not like he had to learn a new playbook or anything like that, but like, they have established a rhythm over 60 plus games. I have to slide into this, have enough reps to find myself without disrupting what they want to do. But I have to relearn like the lower body portion of this. Like, I have to have the power generation. Like, I think that's where, even going back to his opener before he started making a bunch of shots, all of those pull up and side step jumpers were short. And it's like, oh, he's still trying to figure that part out. You would see it with the drive very early on where he would win with the initial burst. But once you get into dribble 3, dribble 4, it's like, okay, I have to gather now. I now have to generate some space for myself at the rim. It gets a little different. And I think that's where it's a little bit encouraging that the free throws in this first 2 or 3 games look a little different than they have the last 5 games if we're doing the full 8-game sample. So it's like, looking at some of the drive stuff, you mentioned the per game numbers, looking at his blow by rate, it's like, oh, this seems higher than what we're accustomed to with Jayson Tatum, which I think speaks to the initial burst. It's like, okay, gather power generation. How do I look jumping off 1? How do I look jumping off of 2? What does the body control look like from there? I think that stuff is going to come. I do understand people looking at the film and pointing it out, like, okay, well, this is not Jayson Tatum. The Celtics do need better from him. I think it's fair criticism, but like, don't throw the baby out with the bathwater. You know what I mean? Like, I think it's going to get there. And to the defense point, as I
Understood.
mentioned, like, he hasn't had a block yet. Like, that's where I think the vertical pop in general for Jayson Tatum, it is still very much getting there. Like, his general change of direction stuff. Plus, okay, I now need to load up and I have to have the timing to do this stuff. Well, I think that's going to come. And it's very funny that while Jayson Tatum not knocking down the pull ups yet, some of the drives can get a little funny. I think, again, fair criticism. The Celtics, like, they have like a plus 12 net with Tatum on the floor. And for all the hand wringing about what is Tatum going to look like very early on, it's like a plus 17 net rating with those 2 on the floor since Tatum's been back. Smaller samples because Tatum has played 8 games. But even within Tatum needing to be better in some areas and needing more time to find himself. So the Celtics have largely blitz teams with Jayson Tatum on the court. And they have absolutely blitz teams when Jayson Tatum and Jaylen Brown have been on the court. The question I'll pose to you, Steve, is as Jayson Tatum is looking to find himself, would you like to see any sort of shifting in terms of his usage? Or are
No,
you just completely fine with what the diet
no,
is right now?
no, no,
Okay.
no, no. I mean, what are we shifting? Because here's the thing: Jayson Tatum can be used in so many different ways. You can post him up. He can be spaced on the floor. He can initiate. He can be a screener. Someone can screen for him. There's different things you can do for Jayson Tatum. I don't think you need to force feed Jayson Tatum. That's probably going to make it louder for some people visually to a degree. Now, I think in the third quarter of that Minnesota game, it was interesting. It's like, okay, we need to get Jayson Tatum going. I did understand that portion, but I don't think you have to change
Mhm.
much of anything. I think he'll find his rhythm within what Boston does, and Boston will find him as well. And so I think it's kind of just everyone kind of walking in lockstep to a degree. I don't think you have to necessarily say, well, Jayson Tatum has to do X, Y, Z. The whole point of Boston being good without him was so that you didn't have to do that. You know what I mean? Like
Right.
we have this
Mhm.
so you can ease your way back in and get back to being Jayson Tatum. And so we're not going to ask you to all of a sudden become Superman to a degree and hey,
Mhm.
create every advantage for us. It's a luxury now. Like we've played well, but we now have someone who's going to create pressure and put pressure on teams and create an advantage. We can integrate that into what we do as opposed to you have to do this because you're back. I think that would be the worst case scenario for Boston if you start to be like, "Hey, we need you to do X, Y, and Z." No, let's get you to a place where you can do that for us on top of what we do. That's my thought.
Okay. No, I think that's fair. I think for me, just watching, the initial thing that pops for me is like, I wish Jayson Tatum got a little bit more screener usage. Both just unlock some of the short roll game for him and get defenses in flux, or even if it's just a simple way for him to attack mismatches just a little bit more often. So it's not necessarily for me, like, just to put the numbers on it. Tatum averaged Jayson Tatum averaged about 86 touches a game last year, or last regular season. So far in his return, he's averaging about 68, or like during this 8-game stretch, 6-game stretch rather. He's averaged about 68. So like, I don't necessarily need him to go from 68 to 85, to your point, to just ramp it up and force feed him touches. I think within that though, there's probably a little bit more room for some screener stuff. I think there's a little bit more room to get him some elbow touches. Like, let him poke at some things close to the basket to where he may not need 3 or 4 dribbles to get to the rim, for an example. Can we shorten that to like 2? And put him in more threatening
I
areas
mean,
that way. Like, I don't.
I I I think that Tatum as a screener stuff is always gonna exist, and Boston's leaned into that because they know that can create an advantage. If you don't, you have a player that you don't want to, like, everyone was mad at him in the Memphis game because of shooting. Hey, buddy, they didn't want to do some switching stuff. They were able to create some opportunities for Jayson Tatum or for other people. And so I think it's integrating that, not showing your full hand with Jayson Tatum as a screener, but that's always going to be a part of what Boston does because they can create an advantage off that now. We can get a 2-on-1 or we can get a mismatch. So I think it's more so we don't want to ground this to a halt. How do we integrate this naturally and mix this in? And who's he screening for? Tatum and Brown is always going to be a switch for most teams just because of their talent level. We're putting our 2 best defenders on them. Okay, so is it who's guarding Derik White? Who's guarding Peyton Pritchard? Like, I think it becomes a little bit more personnel based because of where Tatum's at in the return. But that's gonna happen. It's gonna be a thing because of the advantage it can create.
Absolutely. Like, that's where I'm just like, to your point about naturally fitting it in, since they already do it, like, is that where some of the shift can come in? Like, I think to the Memphis game, for example, to where it felt like the first time within game stretch anyway, to where they're intentional about, okay, let's get into a little bit more of the horn stuff to get Jayson Tatum some touches. So let's get him a catch on, the right block or so. And let's see if we can get into some split game from there. Then he got a double team. There's a turnover out of a kick from a double team there. Like, he got some touches there. There was one where he gets a catch at the left elbow. Jaylen Brown cuts from the corner. He's drawing a foul because Tatum hits him there. Like, I feel like there's a middle ground that can kind of ease some of this for Jayson Tatum. If you're just looking for how can we get a more efficient version for him, I think the jumper stuff is just going to flow the way it flows. I think it's ultimately going to be fine. But that's where I just wanted to ask and see where you were on that front, Steve. But yeah, I think Tatum is ultimately going to be fine. And again, we got Celtics Thunder potential finals preview ? Wednesday, 7:30 Eastern. So sometime around 10 Eastern, Steve and I are going live after that game to talk about Jayson Tatum, but just to talk about the game itself. So make sure you tap in with us. Now, moving away from Jayson Tatum for a bit, Steve, we had a couple of game enders that had NBA Twitter in a frenzy about, like, whose fault was this, how did this breakdown happen, etc. So I wanted to ask you, because I didn't get your thoughts on this directly. So to the Heat Rockets game, where Bam plays 45 minutes, has like 32 and 21. It looks like the Heat are going to steal a win off of a late goaltend call. And then we get to the final possession where it is Bam guarding Kevin Durant. KD takes a right wing jumper, double clutches, misses. Amen Thompson, who is the inbounder on the initial play, flies in from the left wing, gets the offensive rebound, tap in at the buzzer. The Houston Rockets win. There was criticism for Pelle Larson. There was criticism for Tyler Hero. There's criticism for Khalil Ware. Like, that part I didn't really understand. But for you, was this just Houston made a play, or where would you say the breakdown kind of began on the Miami side on that final possession?
Tyler Hero didn't box out. That's all I got.
So
I don't think we have to overthink it, right? They zoned up to a degree. Didn't really care about Reed Shepherd going to the corner. And then Kevin Durant made the right read. Larson was going to come double. KD said, absolutely not. I'm going to drive right before you can get here. Bam did every single thing he could defensively to make Kevin Durant. When have you ever seen Kevin Durant take a pull-up like that? So insane defense from Bam. Tyler Hero just was watching the ball. Didn't get a touch on Ahmed. Tipping. Ball bounced right to him. Assuredly, you didn't think about this entirely too much and spend 10 minutes telling everyone what happened.
Well, there may or may not have been a quick video that I sent on twitter.com before I had to leave for church because I was like, hey, there's a lot happening here. Let's talk about it. Let's pose some theories as to what could have happened here. Like, I was curious in all seriousness, like the early portion where Reed's kind of screened for KD, and there's a little bit of a mishap up top where Pele Larson kind of stopped for a bit and trying to cycle through. Like, did he stop because he was expecting a switch? And Bam was like, I have Kevin Durant. Like, I'm not switching this. And then it turns into Pele Larson trying to chase, and then communication with Hero, and then things kind of flow from there. Or did Pele Larson just take a bad angle trying to trap Reed Shepherd, and thus it still turns into, hey, Tyler, do you have Reed? Do you have Amen? What exactly are we communicating? Then you get the late double. So, like, I was amused by the beginning of that. And,
No,
like,
I mean,
Pele comes with the double, but, like,
Pele
KD was already going to his right.
Pele Larson was playing free safety. If you look at the tape, he was playing free safety. Okay, I'm going to stay here for a second and make Kevin Durant's catch not easy. Well, I'm going to watch to see what Reed Shepherd is doing in case I have to commit to it, because Tyler Hero is also kind of like, I need to be in Alperen Şengün's lap and protect this corner. And then once I see that we're good, I'm going to sit in Alperen Şengün's lap. And then I'm going to come double. So that was the plan. You just got to, Tyler Hero just can't let Amen Thompson walk right by.
Okay. All right, fair enough. Seems pretty definitive. And now to the end of Lakers Magic, Steve. As the Lakers draw up a fun one.
Tremendous set.
That ends in Luke Kennard draining a three from the left wing. So you're already saying tremendous. So this is more, hey, the Lakers drew up something nice versus Orlando, what are you doing, in your opinion?
Well, that's the point. That's the point of an offensive set, is to make the defense make a decision. And so especially late in games, if a team is switching everything, you have to now put your best players in position to be threats, to make the defense react. And that's the power of this set, right? So it starts with, okay, we're just going to have a casual screen here, right? Because we know you're switching everything. But you have to, like, understand and respect the timing of what the Lakers did with that set, to where, okay, it puts you in a position to believe that you have to make a play, right? We know you're switching everything. The timing of, okay, we got Reeves and Kennard, and now it looks like LeBron's going to get a piece of Luka, right? But him and Kennard are there at the same time. So it's technically a stagger to a degree. And then LeBron times the dive to be like, actually, I'm gone. So Desmond Bane, who was on the outside ready to switch because they're switching everything, is like, no, I got this. That's LeBron diving to the basket. Paolo Banchero was like, boy, that's LeBron diving to the basket. And Tristan Da Silva was like, hey, that's Luka. I got that portion. That leaves Luke Kennard open. So that, yeah, we took our threats and we poked at what you want to do defensively because we know you want to switch everything. And that's where you got to credit the timing, the execution. LeBron on that dive. Yeah, that slip, the timing, if he doesn't time that like he did, you don't get Desmond Bane. Desmond Bane's just going to go out and he's going to switch. He's going to switch on Kennard. Paolo, like, he was trying to protect Paolo. Paolo didn't know. They didn't have time to communicate. So LeBron dies. Paolo's like, oh no. Desmond Bane's like, oh no. Luke Kennard's open.
Oh yeah. I got a wide open shot. Also, gold start to LeBron for the subtle arm tug of Paolo. Make him think like, oh, you're coming with me, big dog. While Desmond Bane was like, oh, well, I'm switching on to this if necessary. And that's a very good fit. But okay, I get your thoughts there. Cause like that was a fascinating one. There was a lot of, hey, what is Paolo doing type beat. And it's like, well, it does seem kind of tough. And as you laid out, great timing from the Lakers overall, in particular for LeBron for his slip plus the little tug there to get even more of Paolo's attention as he dives to the basket. And Luke Kennard just gets the easiest shot of the game for him, which what a run this has been for Luke Kennard as a Los Angeles Laker, by the way. We have talked plenty of Lakers over the last week or so. And so we are not going to hang there too long. But he's been very productive for them since the trade deadline. So just want to give him a quick shout there. Thank you, Steve, for lending us your eyes and expertise. Did you have something else you want to add?
What I was going to say, if you're yelling at Paolo, when did he see Luke Kennard? He didn't see Luke Kennard. He was guarding LeBron. So he saw Luka switch, and then LeBron's gone, and Desmond Bane could see it. And yeah, like it's just, come on. That's good offense is created to make defenses make a poor decision. That's the whole point.
There we go. Wise words from Steve Jones Jr. And from there, we're going to take a quick break. But when we return, Derik Queen, rookie big for the New Orleans Pelicans, joins us for the first time on the show. We have a wide-ranging conversation. We talk basketball. We talk Baltimore Ravens for a little bit. So shout out to y'all, or I apologize, depending on how you feel about the Baltimore Ravens. But stay tuned. We'll be right back. And we are back with this episode of the Dunker Spot, and we have a special guest on the show, Derik Queen of the New Orleans Pelicans, joining us for a little bit. Derik, we appreciate you joining us. How are you?
I'm good. How about y'all?
Doing well, doing well. Excited to talk some hoops and other things with you. Normally when we have a player or a coach on the pod, I normally like to start with asking where their love for basketball began. And I do want to ask you that, but a bit of a two-parter for you, honestly. So one, what was your earliest basketball memory? What kind of got you in love with the game? And when did you know that you could pass like this?
So I say my worst basketball memory, I was like 6th grade. I was so bad that I don't know if this because I was bad, but it's this thing in Baltimore called BNBL. And then like my coach just told me stay on the offensive end. Just stay on one end, and why they just go on the other end. So I remember I did that, and then I felt that I can pass probably like 6th grade. So they the two memories that I really like think about like once a week.
Oh wow, okay. Started back in 6th grade. Like, was there you tried to hit a cutter? They were like, wait, I wasn't waiting for this. Was there like a flashbulb moment? Like, oh, we gotta catch up with you now.
No, I kind of think it just happened. Like I had the ball in my hands a lot, and just me like just trying to make the right play. I feel like it all just happened. Like I don't think it was like a moment where it like stood out. I mean, of course I had some moments that stood out, but I don't think it was like. I think it just happened. It was natural.
Got you. Who were some of your favorite players growing up?
Bron, Embiid, Jokic, Kawhi, Melo, KD. Yeah.
When you watch you play, you got a lot of the versatility there as far as the scoring, the footwork, the smoothness, the drives, the passing. Do you feel like you took a piece from each of those favorite players and just kind of built into what you do every day?
Kinda. Like I got my own routine, shooting. Of course I'm just trying to take shooting from all them guys. But no, I mean when you play basketball, of course you gonna have some similarities to people, but I don't really try to like be like I want to be like this person. I just go out there and just do what's like best for me or how I grew up playing.
Got you. Circle back just a little bit. I was going back through kind of the high school roster with you at Mount Verde. Is you, Cooper Flagg, Asa Newell, Liam McNeely, some big names there. What were those practices like? Because that's a lot of future NBA talent in the room.
Yeah.
So what were those kind of battles like? And do y'all have like a group chat where you stay in touch or anything like that? Or have you kind of spread your own ways at this point?
Yeah. We still got a group chat that we stay in touch. But like surprisingly, like we didn't play 5-on-5 a lot. Coach Boyle had us doing defense, like stuff we were doing in the game. And then like at the end, we probably have a 4-minute game of 5-on-5 running clock. But yeah, we was just doing a lot of defensive stuff, boxing out, rebounding, backdoor cuts, a little bit of skill work and stuff. But yeah, but when we did play, it was definitely competitive. It was definitely talking trash. Like we did have our days where we just hoop, but mainly it was just like practice, like structure. But yeah, it was definitely a lot of like competitive stuff.
That's what I'm talking about. I do have one question. When did you kind of feel like, okay, I've got something that's different, unique, because you got like a one-of-a-kind type skill set? Did you notice that? Was it like high school, college? When did
Like probably like 9th grade, because I like adapted quick. I was probably one of the best players on the team. I was ranked the number 1 player in the class. So probably 9th grade where I was just like, and then AAU, I played up, just was frying stuff. So So probably then like ninth grade, I stood out, but I adapted quick, and I didn't expect to like adapt that quick.
Got you. All right, let's move to the NBA portion of the program. As of recording, 12 points, 7 rebounds, 4 assists a game. You're top 10 in scoring, rebounding, and assists among the rookies. And all rookie selection is certainly coming your way. But with the Pelicans in general, kind of bouncing off of what Steve has asked you about, just figuring out how good you are and what that's kind of looked like, how have you kind of balanced fitting in with your current Pelicans team and just kind of getting used to the NBA game and having them adjust to you with your unique skill set?
Yeah, I just try to go out there and adapt, be a basketball player. When it's my time, I try to go out there and make the best of it. But when it's like my teammates' time, I space, get them open, pass them the ball, do whatever the case may be. But it's just when you get here, you just gotta adapt pretty much. Like here, like you might not be the number one option or the best player yet. But you just have to fit in, just know your role, adapt, and just ask your coaches like what they want from you, or what you need to get better at, or what they need you to do at this moment.
Okay. To that end, you have Greg Monroe on staff. You also have a veteran in DeAndre Jordan on the roster with you. What has it been like kind of soaking in information from them? What have those conversations been like, and how much have they kind of helped you?
Yeah, Moose, we call him Moose, Greg Monroe Moose. Mm-hmm. But Moose just, I didn't know he was that nice, but like, yeah, just him just teaching me like his mid-post work, his pump fakes, his moves and stuff. Moose was a killer. He always talked trash with me. And then DJ just telling me like, he just giving me words of encouragement. I mean, they both are just helping me out, just be that big brother, be that great vet for me, and just me learning from them.
Okay. I actually want to hang there for a minute. So when did you learn that Moose was nice? He hit you with one of those pump fakes and pivots?
Yeah. So he be on a scout team sometimes, and like he's my PD coach, so sometimes we play 1-on-1. And then somebody else sent me a video of him on Twitter. Somebody posted like an 8-minute video of Moose highlights, and I was like, yo, like I didn't know he had all that.
You had to dap him up the next day, right? Like yeah. I didn't know the bag was that deep, right?
He be talking like his bag deep.
I know it.
See, now we got
yeah.
Those Detroit days were serious with him.
Mm-hmm.
But while we're talking about bigs, what has it been like kind of building chemistry with Zion?
Yeah, like his gravity definitely helps out a lot because I be open a lot. So like it's just like it's just crazy how big he is. And like how strong and how fast he is and how he maneuver in the air. Like if I was that size, I would never move like that. And just how he wiggle, just how he finish. Like it's just like it's crazy how he does it.
It took me back because I was watching some pick and rolls between you and Zion, because I wanted to ask you how it's been kind of initiating pick and roll instead of being the screener a bunch. And there was one back in November, as a Pacers game, where Zion screens for you after you get a catch from the left wing. You throw this lob, and Zion, it felt like floats in the air for like 5 seconds and tries to slam this down with one hand, ends up missing a dunk. I'm just like, after all the like turmoil and stuff, for him to still be able to get up like that and hang in the air like that, it's got to be crazy. And so I guess related to that, because you have Zion who can fly, you have Trey Murphy III on the roster who can also fly. Mm-hmm. Who's the best dunker on the team?
The best dunker on the team is Carlo. Number 17, bro.
I like it.
Bro, it's crazy because he'll 1 foot jumper and the stuff that he like hit here like between the leg, like can't even explain it. Like y'all gotta see his dunk. He actually should have been. He actually should have been in the dunk contest. Like I swear, like his dunks is crazy.
I love the Carlo shout. Cause I would imagine you break him up because of like the shooting. Like he has the ball skill to him. The dunks are okay. I gotta see the bounce from Carlo. You got to petition, get him in the dunk contest.
Carlo next year. Yeah, Carlo got it. He got all that. Got it behind the back, to between the pump fake between the legs. He got all that.
Oh my. Okay, we have learned something new on this podcast. While we're on the offensive end, we've asked you about your passing, and Steve has brought the smoothness and some of your drives that you're able to get into. I wanted to ask you about the three-point shooting, with you being used as much as you are around the three-point line as a handoff hub, hitting cutters, being able to drive from the perimeter. Do you want to expand your game? Do you want to be able to take 3, 4, 5 threes a game? Or are you okay with being more of a passing hub in that sense?
I mean, right now I'm 30% from three right now. Just keep getting better at it. But yeah, I just want to have a very, very polished game. Like I want to be like I want to have all that. Just keep trying to work on my passing, stop turning the ball over, working on shooting, handle. Just keep getting better at everything.
Okay. Understood. Flipping to the defensive end of the floor, what would you say has been your biggest adjustment since you've joined the NBA?
Just like I remember Milwaukee, they gonna put you in every single action. So just being ready and like they put you like nonstop. Like they show no remorse. Just put you in non. And when we played the 76ers, like Embiid try to go at me every time. So just being ready at every moment, just building your P's and Q's.
Okay, got you. What would you say is your best coverage right now, defensively?
I feel like I think I'm good at like anticipating like people moves 1-on-1. Probably the block on a block defense. Still gotta get some better. I'm still gotta get better at certain stuff, but I feel like those two.
Got you. Okay, to close things out, I want to go a little bit away from basketball for a moment. So, are you a video game guy by chance?
I actually stopped playing the game, but I actually got like the Poga.
Okay.
So now when we go on the road or when the off season, I'm definitely gonna start playing the game more.
Got you. I was gonna ask, like, what kind of games are you playing, things like that. What fried me, because as you are naturally a rookie, younger, I feel like I'm aging myself. Anytime I want to talk to basketball players about video games, I always ask, like, hey, did you play the dunk contest on like NBA Live 05 or NBA Live 06 or anything like that? Were you able to catch any of the NBA Live games? Have you gone back to any of those?
Yeah, I had a Wii.
Okay.
I had I played a 3-on-3. It was like Tony Parker, Ginobili, and Tim Duncan. I'm still a gamer. I just I don't know. I low key took a break from it, but my favorite games now is probably Call of Duty, Madden, 2K.
Okay. We like it. You brought up Madden, so I wanted to ask you a football question. I would imagine you are a Ravens fan,
of course,
based on where you are.
With ease.
How have you felt about? So, did you have a take on the Max Crosby ordeal?
Bro, I was on an elevator with somebody. Like I was getting on the elevator with like someone, and then I had something in my hand, and then I got a vibration, like a notification, and it's like the Max Crosby trade is done. I said, "What?" I screamed, and like she looked at me, and she looked at me crazy, and I was like, "Bro, this can't this literally can't be true. This can't be true." And then like I had posted the Ravens. I was like, "Come on, y'all, let's make some smart decisions." But we got Trey Hendrickson.
Yeah, feel good about that move?
We take
a little pivot. You feel good about that move?
Yeah. Nah, I'm excited. I don't think we're done yet. I think Eric got some stuff under his sleeve. So yeah, I'm really excited for the football season. That's my favorite season.
Okay, got you. All right, well, I have more Ravens questions for you, but we'll save those for off air. Last one I'll ask you, as you seem to have a bit of a partnership with Derik Queen. So could you tell us a little bit about what you're doing with them?
Yeah, it's during the March Madness time. If people brackets didn't go through or didn't go as planned, you can always rely on Derik Queen to if you order through the app, you get if you order through the app and get chicken strip platter, you get a free Buster Bar treats. So make sure y'all do that.
Hey, there we go. Well, Derik Queen, we appreciate you for rocking with us. Best of luck to the rest of your rookie season. We're going to keep our eyes on what the Ravens are doing the rest of this offseason. So we got to see if they add a wide receiver to the room, add some more edge help. We'll see. But we appreciate you rocking with us, man. Thank you.
Thank y'all.
Thank you, Steve, for rocking with me. Thank you again to Derik Queen for rocking with us. And thank you, dear listener or watcher, for rocking with us on this episode of The Dunker Spot. Please subscribe if you haven't already. We're on Apple, Spotify, RIP Google, Stitcher, Podbean, wherever you get your podcasts, you can find us. Subscribe to the Yahoo NBA YouTube channel if you haven't already. Plenty of great content jumping up on the channel. And again, as a reminder, Wednesday night after Thunder Celtics, Steve and I will be going live talking about what we saw in that game. So make sure you tap in with us. You can follow me on socials at Nekias NBA. You can follow Steve on socials at SteveJones20. With that, we will catch y'all Wednesday night, and then we'll catch you later in the week.